All right, so let's rotate this. And so you're saying do 90, oops. Fine. You're looking for something like this, huh? All good. Perfect. Yeah, this is never fun. The problem with these, right? With these types of fillets, as I'm sure you're aware, let me just clean up my screen here. Let's see, escape. Hide my lights here. Okay. So yeah, so the fillet around these, as you break them up, as you know, these are completely planar and flush, right? So if we were to come in here and use something like a surface fillet, it's probably not going to work out so great. What I would probably recommend on these, if I was to approach this, would be to detach so that we have separate pieces. And we can do one side at a time. Let's go ahead and delete our cap so we can clean this thing up. All right. Awesome. And we'll delete this side so it's perfectly cut in half. The fillet tool, does not like to repeat onto itself. Have a flat area at the intersection. Yeah, this area. And, that's kind of the nature of them. Let's see what we can do, though. I haven't attempted this in a very long time. No, let's just go with something fairly small. Yeah. Oops. These we don't want on. What type of work do you do? I'm gonna go. Let's just go single for right now. Open this up. Let's make them a little larger. There we go. I'm just checking out to see what it naturally wants to do. We come through here. Okay, I think I see what we might have to do. I'm gonna do this. Like I said, I haven't done this in a really long time, anything like this, so bear with me here. Experiment just a little bit. Yeah, awesome. So Cordal, I am gonna see if we can get away with a Bezier, just so remove some of these pieces. Probably go in there and just build them by hand here in a second. We get similar results on this side. Excellent. And just how dense this is through here, I'd probably rebuild that stuff. But just for this quick piece, I'd probably remove these, hide my manipulators, and basically cut across here and cut across there. So we'll try to do that with just a freeform blend. Something like that. And then once I see a result, I would most likely go in and start to further refine this. So here's the challenge, because we really need that. This piece needs to be well over here where we know it's tangent, right? So let's see if we can get that to work out. So yeah, that would be probably a fair place to start. Hide some of this stuff. There we have an opening. And I'm just going to take these and because I'm doing this in, let's see, front view, so X, there's my curve. And I might even be tempted to just temporarily detach this. Yeah, temporarily detach it, build some of these fillets, and then use one that's completed through here. You know, that's a continuous surface. And that way we don't have a break right here. But let's go and use this as our starting point just to see how this ends up. Oops. And then we'll use default for right now. And right now it's telling us we can achieve tangency through here, which is, just hide that for a second. I'm going to go to Bezier, explicit. Interesting. Sorry about that. Yeah. So we're getting closer. This piece is good. That's the default, how it wants to handle that. So we still get a little bit of a dip through here. I'm seeing it. But, you know, we would probably just want to push that a little further. Now, to refine this, I probably would approach it a little different now that I see how that worked out. And I'm going to do it like this. So I'll just take a straight line, cut across, detach, and I'm going to break the curve on surface, which is the trim. Did you say you work in Alias or just you work in 3D software? Which one? And we'll go to connect, and that should start giving us some better control through there. There we go. So by having this a continuous curve on surface, it wasn't sure where it needed to stop and start the fillet. By breaking it in line with this edge, now we can get something that passes through there pretty decently, right? Let's bring back these other parts. Let's make sure. A second. Streaming seems to take the software down to stall. And yeah, I probably would be tempted. Looks like these settings weren't exactly the same, so let me just fix something right here. And the difference usually is between form and shape. And yeah, form is going to fail us on that. That often happens in fillets. So we're just going to get it closer, and then we'll blend between these two to get a nice transition through there. And yeah, I'd be tempted to go this way. So I'm going to just use a freeform blend and now go this direction, curvature, shape, and we have something like that. Whoops. We need to make sure these say edge align. Yeah, so that's probably how I would start. There's a couple of issues in here that we would probably want to resolve. Let me just hide some of this stuff. That's a really good challenge though. And you know, I probably, if I was doing this often, I would look to build a formula or create a formula that is repeatable on this. You know, this is my first time blending something like this in some time. Just check this one. There's something going on right there, as you can see. Oh, that looks like it's just shading quality. So, oh, fast. Yeah, we want accurate here. There we go. Now we got much better transition. And then the top is the same as the bottom, but you can see how that would work. Is that bottom view? Sure, no problem. Yeah, and if we want to smash the screen, and you can see there is a dip just like you were, or in this area. That's why wherever this piece crosses that line, you know, these pieces really want to, we got to hit the tangent pretty much perfect on that situation. Now, if these, now keep in mind, I'm using curvature for these, this part, and tangent might actually be better because curvature is the rate of curvature, whereas tangent will give us, and you can see here, whoops, let's go straight bottom view, and you can see here that because our line is not perfectly hitting on the tangent line, this CV is higher, right? So, you know, that's all we would want to, if we were just coming with tangents, then it's a lot easier, but we really need to hit this edge, this one right here, perfectly. That has to be spot on to this line right here, and then we wouldn't get any sort of dip or anything. So if we were just doing tangency, it's a little easier to get a straight line across here. Curvature, you know, because it includes the rate of curvature, then, you know, it's gonna flow through here. So we would just want to approach that maybe slightly different. I hope that makes sense. You know, I just eyeballed that area, but in order to get it perfect, it would have to be, when we built that curve on surface, I'd probably just snap it right to here. And that way it was dead on that line, and then we wouldn't get any sort of shape change in that area. And we should, you know, at that point, right here, isosulfates might be better. Hide this. I was hoping we would get one straight line through here, but yeah, that's pretty close. So hope that helps. That's a great question and awesome challenge. So very cool. Did that help? Oh, you worked at Autodesk on Alias. Do I know you? I used to work there a long time, 11 years. Exactly the same issue. Are you attempting to blend this with tangent or curvature? Well, it's great to meet you now. I was there, I started Alias Wavefront in 1999, and then I believe left Autodesk through acquisitions, you know, in, yeah, that would have been, well, 2012, something like that, 2011, I think. G3, whew. So G3, you know, you've got 3 rows of CVs that would need to be compliant at this point. So G3 would be a little tough, especially with a perfect radii circular shape tube. You know, because if we are looking at a tube shape, your fillet would actually have to start back here for G3, because you would have, you know, one fillet. Just draw this. You know, if we're just looking at I do that? Yeah. You know, this coming off of here, we gotta turn transparency. There we go. You know, your fillet, the first CV might have to be here, here, and then when you get your third row for, well, actually, it would be even more, right? For G3, we would probably need to control it with this many CVs, and at this point, would have to be flattening out in order to get that. So, you know, you're actually, if you're truly getting a G3 fillet on here, the fillet would have to start on the opposite side of that bar in order to get that. You may, I don't know if you try to do this in single span or with spans, but with spans, it's a lot easier to get arc-based fillets. So if you use a 5th degree curve with spans, I think it's 5th degree with spans, you're able to more control an arc into a curvature section, a flat curvature section. You know, if you look at a lot of Apple products, that would be a very similar challenge that they would have, because, you know, on a lot of their products, they have perfectly like a perfect radius going into a flat with curvature, and that's very difficult to control with curvature or G3, right? So I would highly recommend, you know, maybe trying 5th degree with some spans to go from an arc to a straight line. You know, because as with tangent, right, we got one breaking point. There's only one spot that they're going to be continuous. Whereas with G3, G2, you know, you're gonna, this part of the fillet in this section has to be a perfect arc in order to blend this direction and this way, right? So, and what I mean by a perfect arc, if we were to look at the cone plots, let's see, MV, yeah. So see how they're circular in shape? So your fillet actually has to be circular and then stop perfectly here and go straight. And that transition point with G3 is always going to be a challenge. So, you know, just those are some things to be aware of. Now, yeah, that's probably all I would recommend on that. Yeah, well, I could take a look at it. I don't know if you want to drop your website. You know, this is just a test. I probably won't post this live, although I may. But if you wanted to leave your website, you know, I'll check it out for sure. What type of product are you creating a product, or is this for something like bikes, or, you know, something like that? Multi-span in my model with the smooth G3 transfer, so it's not perfectly circular. Yep. Yeah, that would be something I would check out. It seems like I've seen these also done with, you know, I'll just draw on this one. You know, another, just wondering if there's a way to do it this way. You know, almost like a bike frame, right? Where you go this way. And then this patch here, you get a lot more control with how those lead up. But, you know, just for fun. Oh, that's brutal fun. I like that. That's great. That was that's a really exciting challenge. G3 or, you know, or the perfect one, you know, there's going to be some setup on that for sure. Let me just see if I can create something real quick. Let's see. So, switch this to 5th degree. I know 5th degree is important in this formula. Multiple spans. Cool. Detach. Same layer. Have that. And then curious of what does it want to do here? Yep. All right, so then I'm going to take this curve and I'm going to go to create, modify, add. Let's see if it will allow us to do something like that. So, here's the challenge, right? So we have a perfect arc, or, well, it's certainly not perfect, but it's closer. That part changed. But yeah, this could, help determine how that, that section works. This thing has to transition so quickly. We're getting away from the round in that area. And then I would probably just extend this back to dial it in. Oh, that's the span there. So just detach it. Yeah, that would, I'd have to see on your website. I'd really like to. But, to get the best results, that fillet will have to start on the back side of the tangent line of that piece in order to remain a perfect arc, through that blend. So 2 spans. I use 5th degree 2 spans. Yep, that's, do I have, oh, whoops, how did that switch? I thought I switched it to 5th degree. There we go. Yeah, and that's what I would certainly try something like that. Detach that one there. So, at the end of the day, it would look something like that. But, even here, we're getting a little dip. So, that's a good challenge. Two spans, yeah. Cool. Have you tried the subdivision surfaces in Alias yet? Gaussian shader and how you work with it, please. Okay. Oh wow. Let's see. Do I have a demo? The thing about the Gaussian shader, I'm not even sure if this is online or here. Let me just hide this here. There we go. Well, my interaction's pretty slow. Got it. The Gaussian, I believe it's the Gaussian shader. There's some challenges with that one because you designed the tools. Did you design the evaluation tools? Oh, I didn't even realize there was 2 people here. Oh, get out of here. You worked on the sub-D tools, Joe? Joe Gaussian shader. Okay. Nicholas, I'll give me 1 second and I'll create some items for that. I don't think I have any demo files on this machine. Body details, divided. Just start with a plane. And I'm going to just use a few cylinders here. I'm going to see if I can remember how to do this this demo on the fly. Because here's the thing about going to the Gaussian shader. A lot of the shading or the evaluation tools. What's going on here? There we go. There's a couple misconceptions because the tool's actually doing a lot of the work. I'm going to just delete or detach. The tool's often determines the direction that is shading. And you don't exactly know what direction it's choosing. And when I say direction, I'm saying, U and V types of directions. So let me I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually choose those, swap them, go. Reverse active. And then let me just make sure that these are reversed. V, U, okay, cool. Turn off that. Gaussian. Scale is down. So some of these tools, like Principal Max, I believe it's Principal Max. Let me just make sure this is correct. Let me switch over to my laptop settings. There we go. So you want to have the normals all the same. And Principal Max, I think I was expecting those to change. How did this work? So the thing about the Gaussian, and I think we're actually seeing it, because the scale is not showing us any change, and it's saying that it's completely flat, right? So the software is determining which direction this is analyzing the curvature scale. So with the Gaussian, you have to be careful because it really, I believe the Gaussian is the one that shows you essentially items that are flat as opposed to curvature. I could be confusing that with one of the min and maxes. The software, you'll notice that this doesn't have any change. Actually, there, now we can see that negative and positive. Let's see if we can go back. So even though you would expect it to go this direction for the analysis, there's really no way to determine that or force it to see the surface in a certain direction. So here, even though it's a cylinder and it's wrapping around, we would expect some sort of change. And let me just I just want to make sure I'm not. Yeah, I wanted to make sure it wasn't constant. So I've seen this shown to me before. This isn't the way I necessarily see it, but just know that the Gaussian, in this case, it's only showing us flat. That these are flat, but it's obviously only flat in one direction. Whereas we say, a curvature in one direction or in the other, we should be able to determine. There we go. See the change in one direction, whereas here it's just telling us flat. So that's something to be aware of. That not these tools, they don't always give you what you think it should do. It's really determining a lot of that on its own. And I believe it's the Gaussian that there's really no way to tell it, no, I want to analyze over this direction of the surface. Now, if we start putting in 3D shapes, obviously one direction wouldn't be perfectly flat. But I think this illustrates, some of the challenges with using these tools to really read the curvature amount. Often these tools are mainly to call out flat spots, whether something is flat or not, you know, as opposed to telling you whether it has good curvature or the rate of it. There are some times with a full car and that you can get a really good read across multiple surfaces, but just know that a lot of these tools, it's guessing on which direction it's going to display that change to you. So, and on both of these, well, the minimum, we can see that one actually is reading it correctly in this one, but not correctly on that direction. So that's just kind of the nature of it. Single curvature shows everything as flat. I could be wrong here. Please check. Yeah, no, and that certainly could be true. But a lot of times, when we have something that has any sort of shape to it, we certainly would want to know, or we would think, or at least in my concept, the way I see it, I would always want to see a ramp if there was any sort of curvature. So, yeah, and it is measuring both U and V in those directions, but you don't get to choose which one it's actually displaying the radius on. And I think that's the biggest problem with some of these tools. And often, if you use some of the other ones, analysis tools, you can get just the same amount of information. Yeah, and as soon as we pop that up, now it's reading across this direction. Yeah, at that time. So, yeah. So I don't use these tools very often, the Gaussian. And as you noticed, when I switch to these tools, the only thing I use these tools for is minimum radius amounts. And so in my own personal work, when I'm doing filleting or Class A modeling for production, and there's a minimum radius requirement, the minimum radius within the principal max, if you use principal min, it would be max radius, but usually your minimum radius is the most important. And if there's a tooling requirement that says you have to be above, let's say, 2 millimeters or a half mil or whatever it is, this will find those minimum radiuses in 3D, and then I'll use Query Edit, and you can see right here it says principal max, and when you mouse over the section using the right click, it will tell you the exact radius in 3D space of that point, of that pixel. So that's that's something to be aware of. That is really the only way that I use these tools. Other than that, for evaluating reflections, I'm using ISO angle or the sulfites for the most part, those tools. Great question. That's a really good question. This is where I want, if you guys know who Barry Kimball is, Barry can bust out some of the best demos on this stuff, because, yeah, this is like his world. So, Joe Mama, what did you work on in the Sub-D tools? And how long ago did you work for Alias?